who's been getting a lot of flack recently in the gacha space. Somebody who's being oh so humble and declaring himself the god of gacha games because he's maining 13 different gacha games at the same time. Where he thinks that's cool, the rest of us call that mental illness. But he's been getting absolutely slapped by everybody in the community recently. He went on a whole tirade trying to call out Tectone and insult him for who he is, for how he does his content, only to be totally revealed by Tectone in a recent stream today where he pulled out all of the receipts of their DMs of all the times that Tuhu has been begging for his help, begging for his support, begging for raids in every single way so he can try and make his content. So it's absolutely hilarious to me that somebody who was constantly begging for support, who did receive support and help, only to turn around and stab Tectone in the back again. Interesting pattern we have going here. Now, as one of these smaller content creators that Tectone has mentioned where he has offered me a little bit of advice in the past, we've had a few conversations, he would probably, to be honest, still Humega lull me if I were to come up in his stream. I'm a much smaller content creator and that's totally fine. I understand that that's how some of these things go. But I appreciated the help that he did offer me at that time. He offered me some thumbnail feedback and it was really good. But Tuhu, I don't know why he's going on this absolute tirade. That's a lie. I do know why he's going on this tirade, because he's got bills to pay and he's really trying to farm views. Well, guess what? You got one from me, buddy, because here's the deal. Tuhu just dropped a video recently going over Delusional Gacha Takes Episode 4, sensationalizing the Big Four. Now, look, I wasn't around for the first little bit. He's already had his mask off moment and we've already seen him get called out, but I'm interested. I'm interested to see what his video back after getting absolutely slapped by Tectone was going to look like and what it's going to be like. So we're going to dive in and take a little bit of a look here. Now, I'm going to be honest, he talks really slow and I've got a lot of brain rot. So we're going to play this at about 1.25 times speed. We're going to see what happens. Let's see if I can even make it through this video.
So dudes, welcome back to another episode of Delusional Gacha Takes, but unlike the first couple, this one's going to be more chill. In case y'all forgot, in the pilot episode of the series, I did mention that on occasion, I'll make more relaxed videos like this one, where I'm not necessarily talking about like drama or anything on the heavier side like that. And no, but
I have a hard time believing that to be the case. I don't know, something's telling me something else is coming here to be like, this is the video that you're coming back with. Also, I hate staring at his background. Am I the only one? That's like the cringest shit I've ever seen. That's so cringy.
Before you ask, it's not because of the rats. Why do you think a god like me needs to be scared of some pieces of trash on the internet after all? But
that's the most forced dig I've ever heard in my whole life. Like that. Bro's trying to act like he's got aura. The only thing I can see is the most like faked persona I've seen in my entire life.
It's because what I want to talk about in today's video doesn't warrant the same level of aggression that I put into the last couple. If you're new to the channel and you're not sure why I just call myself a god, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Tuhu and I'm the god of gacha games. I've been playing.
Does anybody actually like see that and either one, think that's funny and entertaining, or two, actually be like, wow, man, that guy's so cool for doing that? Like, is there anybody actually delulu enough to actually think that's like entertaining, cool, and or like brag worthy? Like, I don't know. I've never met one, or if I have, they're probably in the Genshin community.
Playing gacha games for the last 8 years, and currently I'm playing and keeping up with 13 of them, with more to come in the future as they come out. And because there are some individuals out there with more than 4
This is so forced. This is so unbelievably forced. Like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to act like I'm above it all when, bro, you are deep in this muddy slop. Just trying to farm this out there as much as you can. That's so hilarious to me. Also, maining 13 gachas is insane. Like, as somebody who, like, I usually at most have had like 5 or 6 in rotation. That's crazy. Now, maybe if you're streaming and you're doing it full time all day, every day, you could maybe look at trying to do the 13. I think I've seen clips of him with having multiple games open at the same time. And like, that's like a normal stream for him. That's crazy. That's not cool. That's crazy.
46 chromosomes who heard me call myself that and got triggered off the face of the planet, which, by the way, is hilarious seeing them crash out like that. I'd like to clarify that I don't...
No one's crashing out. We're all cringing at you. That's not the same thing.
I don't call myself the god of gacha just because I play a whole bunch of gacha games or just because I spent a whole lot of money on them. I call myself the gacha god because I know gacha. I know what they truly are, I know how they work, how you're supposed to play them, what to look for to know if a gacha is like a good one, and most importantly, how to improve them. Or in other words, contrary to popular belief, it's not just because I have an ego about it, but it's also because I have both the experience and the commitment to gacha games to call myself such, which many people out there who recently came across my videos in the last couple of weeks seem to lack the mental capacity to comprehend. Sorry, did I say I wasn't going to be as aggressive in this video? I lied.
Just because you play a lot of these games does not necessarily mean all of your takes are good or that you actually grasp a good understanding. There's a lot of people who collect mental illness like it's going out of style, and that doesn't necessarily make them more educated on mental illness. It just makes them sick. So just because you're playing a lot of gacha games doesn't mean you understand them and you're good at them. It just means you get sucked in a lot.
I'll keep it to those certain individuals, though. But enough trash talk.
Also, just that whole force thing is just ridiculous to me.
For now. In this video, I want to talk about the tendency of big gacha players, people who mainly play or only play any number of what I like to call the big four gachas, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and Wuthering Waves, to create content that suggests that the game they're talking about is like the best or the greatest at something. And the
just because somebody plays a big four gacha does not make them like ill-equipped or unable to speak about gacha games in general. If you, in my opinion, if you've played gacha games, you can speak on gacha games. That's pretty much as it like has to work. I don't think you need to play every single gacha game or play every gacha game outside of the big four or to main 13 freaking gacha games at the same time to have the authority to speak on things in the gacha community. That's just like an asinine thing. That's the same kind of like ridiculous gatekeeping of like somebody saying, oh man, I really like anime. She's like, oh yeah, have you watched every anime ever? Then you're not really an anime fan. That's the same energy this has. Like, you want to talk about gacha? Have you played every gacha game ever? Pff, you're not really a gacha fan.
examples of such that I'll bring up throughout my video here are the following. These two videos by Honkai Chaser that say Zenless Zone Zero is the hardest gacha game out there.
I don't know who Honkai Chaser is, I'll be honest.
And these videos saying Wuwa's 2.0 patch is the best patch.
Yo, shout out to the homie Ethan. Let's go, dude. Getting called out. Look like you got an op, man. That's some good stuff. Glad you're getting a shout out here. Let's go.
In all of gacha gaming. There are, of course, a lot more examples out there of what I'm talking about, but these are the ones that I just happened to come across. I'll give you the bottom line here first, and then go into the examples listed above. I'm not a fan of people saying that whatever gacha they play is the best at any one particular thing in the entire spectrum of gacha games. For example, saying that your gacha is the hardest gacha to play, or that one patch in your gacha is like the best patch out of any gacha game out there. And
Are we really gonna start tone policing and like word policing? Like, you can objectively say that some things are the best in a particular gacha game. Like, that's not unreasonable. Like, you can have a mathematical conclusion of like what gacha system is like the most free to play friendly, like is the best gacha system within comparing gacha games. Like, you can do that. You can objectively do that and find that conclusion.
I got two reasons as to why. First is simply because many, if not most, of the people who make videos or tweets like this, they don't have to be just videos, they can be tweets too, don't play many other gacha games that aren't the big four, right? Checking the channels of the people who made the first couple of videos that I'm using as examples here, Honkai Chaser appears to upload mainly Hoyo content, such as Honkai Impact and more recently Zenless Zone Zero. Ethan seems like he mainly puts up Wuwa content nowadays, though if I search his video history, he did start out on Genshin at least. And Sykamen Ramen's been doing more gaming news lately, but he's done plenty of gacha content before. But outside of a few exceptions, like Sykamen doing videos on GFL2 and Reverse 1999 a while back, it seems like none of these guys play much else in terms of gacha.
Again, I want to reiterate this, that it does not matter if you play gacha games or not, or how many gacha games you play. If you want to speak on this issue, you can totally talk to the practices of a business and how they're treating their player base, whether or not you've played 10 different gacha games or not. Now, look, I'm not going to pull this up just as a flex, because honestly, I don't care. I don't feel the need to bring this up often, but clearly this matters to someone like Tuhu. I did a video like over a year ago ranking a bunch of the different gacha games that I have previously played, and look, even at the time I put Honkai Star Rail as like S rank, so like clearly that was an interesting opinion, but I've played a bunch more since then that are outside of the big four and experimented with. So does that make my opinion more valid that I'm able to speak to this now, or because I put Honkai Star Rail in S tier at the time over a year ago because we were freaking talking about Bellabog, that like that's not that my opinion has now been discounted for doing so? No, it's ridiculous to make this like the bar of entry to speak on an issue that you have to play a ton of gacha games outside of it is ridiculous. I need that to be clear. If you happen to come across this video too, that's absurd.
Technically, Honkai Chaser has played quite a bit of Honkai Impact, and Honkai Impact definitely isn't one of the big four, so he's the main exception here, but true to his name, his content consists of entirely Hoyoverse games, so I don't know if he's played any other gacha or not. It is possible that they do play others besides the ones that they make content for. It could just be that they just don't make content on them, or maybe they only stream them instead of making dedicated YouTube videos for them if they do stream. I myself play 13 different gacha games, but I don't like make regular content on all of them, clearly. But for like 8 or 9 of them, I I do have these whales logs or dolphins logs videos that I make at the end or the beginning of every month. What
I don't even know if there's 13 gacha games worth playing and maining, like all at the same time. Like that sounds kind of crazy to me. Usually it makes sense to like, once you have a gacha game that's like not really like scratching that itch for it anymore, like you drop it and move on. To stay maining 13 gacha games is just insane to me.
this bald retard doesn't get is that these videos were never meant to get a whole ton of views or anything like that. I make them because I think it's kind of cool to document the progress on some of my gachas and see how much they've changed or improved over the months and years, and they're there if anyone wants to follow along. Tectone.
It's hilarious to me watching this now, knowing that like Tectone has completely like shown all of their DMs, all the times that Tuhu has like cried for his help and like asking because he's been like struggling financially. And like, look, I'm not going to judge anyone for like struggling financially or looking to others in the space for advice who are more experienced than you. Like, of course, if you're looking to make content creation your full-time career and how to make money in doing that, you're going to look to people that are successful in doing that. That 100% makes sense. The hilarious part is this person that he's been begging raids for, that he's been begging for support from, he's now turning around and trying to stab him in the back because he's being called out by that same person for being crazy, hypocritical, calling out people unnecessarily, and being oh so humble with referring to himself as the god of gacha gaming. Come on, man. Come on, take a seat.
Called himself a fan of my content or some bull like that, or at least he used to be. So he should have known that, considering my very first Whales log that I did for my FGO account is older than his entire YouTube channel.
That's not a flex. Want to know why? Because his channel far surpasses your own. Like in every single metric. So like, oh man, yeah, your account is 6 months older than his. Like, congratulations. Like, is if that's the numbers game you want to play, he would eclipse you in every other metric. So it's just like, I don't think you want to go down that path, little bro. Also, somebody can be a fan of your content and not necessarily know all of your content or every single thing that you post. Like, are you going to gatekeep being a fan now? That like, he probably watched a few videos and enjoyed them and thought you had some pretty reasonable takes at the time. But because he doesn't watch everything in all of your whale logs and everything that you do, it's like, oh, he's not a real fan. Yeah, just like these other content creators aren't real gacha game players because they don't play 13 gacha games and have mental illness. Good metric. Good metric, Tuhu.
He even had hair back then too, but all the React Andy slop content he does nowadays made all his hair fall out, I guess.
You're going to act like you don't make slop content. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Or maybe he was just a fan.
Let me be more clear. You do make slop. This is slop content. This is slop content. Exactly what we're watching here right now. So I need you to understand that you are deep in the mud. Stop trying to like morally grandstand or try and take the high road in this situation or pretend like you're doing that. Like, you are 100% here, bro.
Fan of my videos when I only talked about stuff that fit his agenda. Huh, funny how that works. Anyways, the Timu Asmongold tangent aside, these Whales logs and Dolphins logs I do
Wait, Timu as he's saying Tectone is Timu Asmongold? Holy smokes, dude. Both of those content creators are way bigger than you probably will ever be. And all of this screams to me is just like envy, that you're just like jealous of his success that he's getting from his content. And you're just trying to insult him as like Timu Asmongold because he's been able to successfully break into variety content and cover what he wants to. Like, this sounds like I'm white knighting super hard for Tectone right now, but like, let's be real here. You are trying to slander the person you've begged for help multiple times and got some help from. Like, that's such a shitty look, dude. Like, really, like, take a minute to look at that.
Every month now serve as my proof that I do in fact keep up with all 13 of my gachas. For the ones that I don't make these log videos for, you can just hit up my stream either right here on my YouTube channel or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/ToaSniper98 and ask me how my progress has been in them, and I'll gladly show you. I say
Yeah, we've already addressed this. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make anything more valid.
all of this to point out that a lot of these guys who say stuff like Zenless or Wuwa for that matter is the hardest gacha game out there, or Wuwa has the best patch ever, haven't or have barely played other gacha games. So without trying to sound too dramatic when I say this, what kind of authority do they think they have when they say stuff like that? How do you
What kind of authority do you think you have? You have the authority of mental illness. Like, this is like such a ridiculous like semantics based argument of like, oh, is this really the best patch ever? Like, actually, there was actually this one other game that had this other really good patch, and so it's not actually like the best patch ever because of this thing. Bro, people are allowed to be excited and sensationalize something for views, especially when you're playing the game and like the clickbait game on YouTube, which again, they're following through on, they're talking about the subjects. Like, there's nothing wrong with clickbait when they're doing that. So like, We're talking about 2.0 of Wuthering Waves, which completely revamped the game and saved it. It reinvigorated the world exploration. It introduced way better characters, way better storytelling. When you finally break into the city for the first time and you come into that landscape and you get that reveal and then you realize, oh, I'm actually still playing. This isn't a cinematic. We're just experiencing this game in real time. Yeah, that completely revamped the game for people. As somebody who almost fell off Wuthering Waves entirely around that time after, 1.2 was a bit of a disaster patch. 1.3 was not great either. That was huge in reinvigorating the player base. And now recently, in the most recent revenue reporter, it has passed Genshin Impact in terms of its monthly revenue. So not that a monthly revenue is the metric of everything. That is an insane patch. And there's been very few games that have been able to completely revitalize a game in a singular patch from a gameplay perspective and an overall a sparking of the player base.
You know that, for instance, Zenless is in fact the hardest gacha game out there. I know that there are plenty of WoWo players and content creators alike who will gladly disagree, and by the way, since I get the feeling this might happen, please do not harass Honkai Chaser for that. I'm only bringing him and his content up as an example for my video, so leave him the f*** alone. It's pathetic enough what a lot of the WoWo community's turned into, and the fact that pieces of like these three exist doesn't exactly—
Yo, look, we got, oh my gosh, is this the new, three horsemen of the apocalypse? I guess it should be 4. We got Saint, I'm in here, guys, look, self-insert. We got freaking Saint Tontus, Tectone, Itoma. That's so funny to me. That's such a virtue signaling thing he just did. He's trying to pretend like he actually cares about the harassment these other content creators get. And I would bet money that he does not actually care. He does this simply so he has an out. And if something happens or some harassment comes, he's saying, well, I said, don't worry, guys. I said I didn't want harassment. It is 100% just saving your ass, dude. And everybody can see that, especially when right off the back of that, you're like, yeah, I do this. Unlike these 3. What a dweeb.
help. Battle Tower is really challenging, don't get me wrong. And Honkai Chaser was doing floor 70, I think it was, or something like that when I checked his video, and that's a lot more impressive than my lazy ass stuck down there at only floor 30. But I'll tell you this. When I play Battle Tower, right, it's difficult for sure, and you can't make a single mistake because one hit means 3/4 of your health is already gone, and a bad hit means that one of your characters is already dead. But I know that as long as I keep trying, as long as I learn how to play better and stop having a skill issue, I will be able to beat it.
I think we literally just said that the game is incredibly hard, and actually once you do get the higher battle towers, it literally, you do need to play perfectly. That's why again, I've got my own skill issues with Zenless, and I am not that high in the battle tower. So it is really difficult trying to push the battle tower. So I don't understand the point he's about to make here, so I'm gonna let him finish cooking this because he basically just admitted that it is extremely difficult high up in the battle tower. So
if I truly want to reach floor 100 or however high it goes up to in Zenless Battle Tower, right? I'm confident that I can get there eventually, though obviously it'll take me quite a bit of grind to do so. But I can't—
Which, if you, hold on, yeah, let's just translate what he just said there. The game is super, super hard, but if I played it long enough and I practiced and I got really good at the game, then I could beat it. Yeah, that's how difficulty in gaming works, okay? What are we doing?
Can't say the same about all the other gachas I've played. Some of them have fights where the entire time I didn't know if I was going to beat them. FGO, for instance, is the gacha that I know the most in terms of its mechanics, like how to play and such. And
it's also the slob gacha game that I literally refuse to touch and I refuse to play. Oh my gosh, the amount of elitism that comes into the Fate Go community is absolutely crazy to me.
It's the gacha that I've been playing for the longest, and there have still been some fights, some challenge stages that is, where not only did they take an hour or two to clear each, but I wasn't confident that I could clear it to begin with. And oftentimes I didn't, and I had to do that all over again. Girls Frontline—
So, hold on. So, skill issue, and he did end up clearing it. So, he didn't end up clearing it in Zenless. So, but he's got the audacity to say oh, but I think I could eventually go and clear it. But then these Fate Go stages that he did clear, he's oh, but it was really hard to, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to. And the fight was really long. Therefore, it's actually difficult. That doesn't actually prove anything.
1 had hard mode event stages that even when I was following guides on YouTube telling me what to do, I didn't know if I could still beat them. Both—
I just want to clarify there on that previous point. I'm just saying that duration of a fight is no indication of difficulty. You could have a really long fight and it just be really dragged out because the amount of damage that's being expelled during that time is really low. So the complexity is not necessarily there, but the inflation of numbers being the actual issue. That's all I'm trying to say is length does not equal difficulty. It's just one factor, potentially. Potentially.
Due to map RNG and my own micro, or the lack thereof. Arknights had a couple of Risk 18 contingency contracts that I struggled with, one of which I just threw my hands up and said, F it, I'm just looking up a guide.
That just sounds like a skill issue.
And don't even get me started on Blue Archive raids. Nexon can actually go F themselves.
I think we need to call the FBI.
How do you know that, for example, Wuthering Waves 2.0 patch is the greatest patch in gacha history?
I would like to point out there, he never actually made any comparison to prove that Zenless was not the most difficult game. He just went, well, these other stages in these other games are hard. Cool, man. What are you trying to prove? Well, and therefore it's not the most difficult. Well, you didn't disprove that it was the most difficult. Like, literally he just said, well, these other games are hard too. Yeah, man. So's Elden Ring. Who cares? Like, unless you were trying to like make that comparison to prove of why it's more difficult or give like actual points for doing so. I'm not even saying he's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying the points that he made there held no water for me.
Right? It was amazing, don't get me wrong. Rina Sita is a huge improvement over Huanglong. The game got much better visually. Flight is cool, among other things. A lot more things, actually. But
really cool, meaning like it completely changed the overall like world exploration experience and made it absolutely amazing. On top of that, he doesn't even mention how the ability to 100% regions became way more accessible, gave you more like checklists to make it more approachable instead of needing to just like randomly explore forever to try and find everything, or to go into like a third-party tool like some kind of like interactive map to like find everything. They put everything in the game so any player can go in and just like explore and 100% everything. I've 100%ed Renacida so far. I haven't done the most recent 2.2 patch, so I haven't 100%ed that as of yet, but everything else that I've done so far I've 100%ed because it completely changed the world exploration experience. I don't think I 100%ed anything in 1.0 because of how much they changed that.
The greatest patch in gacha history levels of good? Because Snowbreak Containment Zone had a patch that turned that gacha into a full-on Gunnar or Coomer game, whichever terminology you prefer.
Is that really?
Characters and skins that look like this these days, when at launch it was a lot more conservative. And I know what you're...
Hold on. Are we trying to make the equivalence that like one game that completely revitalized the entire exploration, story, and world building of a game in its early release, not even after a year, 2.0 launch of the game, is the equivalent of a game becoming more sexual and having more like revealing outfits? You're trying to make like an equivalency there. It's like one being like the best update to a gacha game. That's not even a good example for your argument. That's insane. I'm gonna let him finish here before I say more though.
You're thinking, you know, oh, Gunnar content doesn't mean it's the best patch ever, which you're
Yeah.
right, on its own it wouldn't be. But that patch for Snowbreak was one of the crucial reasons why that game was able to avoid EOS. Or in other words, Snowbreak going full Gunnar quite literally saved the game, at least partially. And
that doesn't make it a good game. That just means the game didn't shut down. None of that makes the game a good game, objectively. All that does is mean that it didn't make the company go under. It's the same argument as like there being like a big female content creator who has a really thriving career, but falls off massively and they're like gonna go bankrupt because they're not making money on their videos. So they start an OnlyFans and then they start making money selling an OnlyFans. That doesn't suddenly make them a good content creator. That doesn't suddenly make their YouTube content really good. It just means they're starting to sell their body and make money off of that. That doesn't, the two things are not the one and the same. All that is they're just selling their bodies because they know the game's not very good, so they're hoping they can capitalize on over-sexualization in the game. As somebody who played Snowbreak on launch, and I tried to go back to it a little bit later on because I thought some of the characters were cool designed before it went like full-blown Gunnar, like the gameplay loop is like kind of mid, I'm gonna be honest. Like I've got a decent number of characters in the roster and it wasn't enough to keep me in the game. Going Gunnar was not enough to keep me in the game, or was not enough to even sell it to me. So if that is the whole reason that somebody wants to stay in this game, I'm sure there are other websites they could go to instead. So that's not even close to the same thing as what Wuthering Waves did.
now the devs are the same ones developing that new PvP mecha game called Mecha Break because Snowbreak did so well after their Gunnar patch. Again, WoW's 2.0 patch was amazing, but when people talk about the best patch ever, more so than its contents, I also think about how much...
Well, okay. Well, I gave a bunch of examples in their contents, and I do think a lot of other people who have said the 2.0 was the best patch ever gave a lot of those reasons. The only thing you gave was Snowbreak went Gunnar, therefore it's good now.
Of an impact that patch had on its game overall. WoW 2.0 had a ton of impact, that's undeniable. But even if it weren't that amazing, it wouldn't have, like, killed the game. or anything like that. Like, people would still keep playing, myself included. Snowbreak's Gooner patch, on the other hand, had end of service on the line. And if it did EOS, it would have killed off not just Snowbreak, but also Mecha Break, most likely. And
well, okay, you cannot guarantee that it would have killed off Mecha Break. There's no guarantee there if they had EOS, a Snowbreak, that it would have killed off Mecha Break. That's just, it's not provable unless you can look at the company's books. That's not true. But just because a patch does, like, stops a game from going under doesn't necessarily make it the best patch ever. It just means it's kept the game alive. The fact that it was on the brink of EOSing proves that the game itself really isn't even that good. So, the fact that their revitalization for the game wasn't to change the core gameplay mechanics or the core gameplay loop, but literally just to sell sexualized characters, we're going to equate that with all of the new gameplay and all the revitalization that WoWa came in as like, oh, well, they're not talking about the substance of the patch. Everybody talked about the substance of the patch. You're arguing ghosts here, man. What are you doing?
all that was just for one other gacha. I'm sure that there are other gacha games out there that have had just as impactful patches that change them drastically for the better, if not even more. My point here is that saying, again, for example, Wuthering Waves has the best patch in gacha history doesn't have much weight to it if the person or the people saying that have only ever played WoWa and maybe some Hoyo games and that's it.
You're right, because anybody who's played, unless you've only played gacha games, you can't speak to video games. If you've played, Halo, or if you've played Devil May Cry, or if you played Oblivion, if you played Skyrim, no matter what other games that you've played, it doesn't matter because you haven't played a gacha game. It's because, of course, we can only judge game merits based on them being other gacha games. That's asinine. It's just ridiculous. While there are some things you might have more of an understanding of within gacha typical mechanics, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't still speak to those mechanics not having played a ton of different gacha games. You can still talk about how it's predatory. You can still talk about the issues of exploration. You can still talk about the issues of the combat, even if you haven't played other gacha games before. It's just still such a ridiculous gatekeeping perspective, to be able to say that.
Obviously, gacha games are so much more than just the big four, and just because you don't play them doesn't mean that they all of a sudden don't exist. I try not to generalize my statements like that because I understand that gacha games are very nuanced, and there's a lot of things to consider when you talk about them. So if someone who runs around calling themselves the god of gacha tries not to do that, what makes you think you can? Some of you may point out that
every time he says that title, I literally die inside. Am I the only one? This is just getting fucking crazy, dude.
Maybe I'm just taking this a little too seriously. Come on, bro. It's just a few clickbait titles, man. It's not that deep.
Yes. No, 100%. He just nailed it. He's blowing this, he's word policing the semantic arguments of people doing clickbait titles about updates in a game that does actually have some substance to it, and saying well, you haven't played every gacha ever, so you can't say it's the best patch ever. Boil it down. That's the argument here, everybody. You haven't played every gacha game, so you can't say this is the best update ever. Fuck off, dude.
I even said before in my last Delusional Gacha Takes video that I get it, this is just how content creation is nowadays. To that, I'd just like to point out the fact that those pieces of trash that I mentioned earlier got triggered enough by me calling myself a gacha god that they made their own dog react videos where they did nothing but throw around personal insults because actual counter-arguments are beyond their mental capacity, so...
I would like to point out that I have not personally insulted your appearance, your look, or anything about that. I haven't even really insulted, you financially, like other people haven't, Tectone has brought up. I've only been trying to bring up, legitimate arguments here. But I do still find it hilarious that this person that you've begged support from, that you've begged raids from, who've begged feedback from, so, to build your career, who has given you feedback and has offered that in so many ways, that you're now calling them a piece of trash for doing so. Take a look in the mirror, man. Take some real self-reflection there on that moment.
Clearly, I'm not the only one who takes things too seriously. Two wrongs don't make a right, but theirs are worse, so they can go themselves.
The fact that you have the audacity to say that theirs are worse, therefore mine's not a big deal, is just textbook narcissism to me. And deflection of just well, mine's not that bad, so screw you guys. Nah, man, you're being a piece of shit too.
Oh, I know. Maybe they should go get their Twitch channels banned again. Ha! The second reason, and the far more...
From my understanding, a lot of those bans were unsubstantiated and returned early, and or done for biased reasons of brigading. I think that's what happened with Saint. I think Tectone's ban was because he called Frogan a fat piece of shit or something. And then he got like mass reported as a result, but then that also got overturned. Also, I would like to point out the fact he got banned. He's now dual streaming on Twitch and YouTube, pulling in even more views. So like trying to use that as like a gotcha moment when it means he's just blowing you out of the water even more. Still hilarious to me. I don't think this is going the way that you think it is, dude.
More important one is because of this. This sort of language encourages people to build a media echo chamber around themselves and their favorite gacha. Obviously, it's not just content creators who say stuff like, oh, Zenless is the hardest gacha game, or Wuwa has the best patch in gacha history. Many regular players who don't stream or make videos share similar or the same opinions even, and haven't really played other gachas outside the big four. But even if the content creators themselves understand that what they're saying is not necessarily true and they're just exaggerating and playing it up for the views, most of their viewers certainly won't. Because they don't play other gachas, regular players don't have the knowledge or the experience to say otherwise when some piece of shit like Saint Tontus starts screaming in their faces with the biggest megaphone he can get his hands on about how Wuwa is the best gacha game in the world and Hoyo games should all just burn in hell.
I would like to point out that, like, while I don't necessarily always agree with Saint's approach, I know Saint personally, and we've had some great conversation and spent some great time together. So I'll get my bias out of the way here. That I do know him. I like Saint. I like what he does. Almost every single time that Saint goes through one of these videos calling out BS, he brings the receipts. You're trying to obfuscate all of his videos with saying, well, he's just using the biggest megaphone he can use, like acting like he's just trying to like bully his way through. We're like, sure, he'll throw out personal digs from time to time, but almost every single time throughout his videos, he brings the receipts proving as to why that's the case. Whether it be the Miyagi stuff that's recently come up with the reports that she's been like pulling around. He went into the Excel spreadsheets and showed why the whole methodology was wrong. Like, he brings the details. You're completely trying to undermine the work that he does or the way that he talks about in his justifications just because you don't like how he does it. That doesn't make him wrong. That just makes him kind of a jerk, sure. But I mean, like, you kind of got to be a little bit in the space. Like, you got to stand up for yourself during these times. And like, look, you can criticize when things are worth criticizing, but you can also defend things when they're worth defending. That's exactly what Saint does in this case. So to like try and make that equivalency there, that like you're better than him, is insane to me. In every metric. Look, I'm going to be honest. I've kind of had it. Most of these arguments, like, one are straw men or just elitist gatekeeping and trying to justify why his opinion is the only opinion that matters because he's got mental illness with 13 different gacha games going on simultaneously, which is just like ridiculous. That's all what it boils down to. And trying to discredit the fact that your other gaming experience and any other knowledge you bring into it is irrelevant to somebody who's played more gacha games than you. And so he's the god of gacha gaming. So I don't even know if I want to like finish this, if I'm being honest. Like, this is like kind of getting ridiculous to me. Is there even anything else worth saying here? Yeah, look, I just watched through the rest of the video, and he doesn't make any actually really good arguments. He makes a bunch of ad hominem attacks, just like insulting Tectone a couple more times, insulting Saint and Itobo a couple more times about them being basically holes for Tectone to fuck. Like, that's literally all he says about them. No real substantial arguments there. He just continues to toe the line of basically tone policing and saying that unless you've played as many gacha games as I have, then you're not allowed to make these sensationalized statements about Wuthering Waves, to say that it's Zenless is the hardest, to say that Wuthering Waves had the best patch ever, because only he is the honored one, the god of gacha gaming, who is allowed to make that statement. It's absolutely absurd. I gotta be honest here too, this whole thing reeks of cringe. Nobody likes a Karen. You're acting like a Karen right now of like tone policing of like, you can't say that about these gacha games. It's awful to listen to and it's awful to watch. The only thing I will give you some modicum of like approval on, or that I agree with you on, is that when there is a degree of tribalism where if you do criticize a game, how passionately some people in the community will come to the game's defense and attack you for your feedback or criticism of the game, that's fair. Like the amount of people who were defending the anniversary for Wuthering Waves in every single way was fair to criticize those people or to criticize the anniversary for the amount of rewards that were being given. However, in the same breath, people were trying to then strawman and say all of the CCs were saying that the Wuwa 2.0 anniversary was perfect in every single way, when that was also a completely false narrative that was being pushed around, where basically every big Wuthering Waves CC or Gacha CC who was covering it at the time all agreed that the rewards were lackluster. When things are worth being criticized, criticize them, and a lot of content creators do. Saint Tontus included. As much as you like to absolutely shit on him in this video and come at him for what he's for him basically calling you out, he does criticize Wuthering Waves when it's worth criticizing, but he also defends it when it's worth defending, and he's also not going to let unverified or false criticism pass when it's not fair. That's also all totally legitimate and totally reasonable. You may not like how he says it, you might not like how he approaches the subject. That doesn't make him wrong. And unfortunately, we live in a soft age where people think if you said it in a mean way and you made someone upset, therefore you're wrong. That's not the case. And Saint has been right more times than he has been wrong. Has he been always right? No. But he's been right way more times than he's been wrong. I'm going to just preface this and say this is a joke, but you know that screenshot of Tectone's Discord DM that was probably clearly a joke, because I've watched him say that to many other people as well. Maybe you should follow his advice. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're interested in some more like variety kind of content. I do have a second channel you can go ahead and check out, and I would appreciate that. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.